Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Remotely Reports. I'm working again with Frederic Laroche this morning. This is part 4 of the report that he is presenting. Frederic Laroche is an activist for EMF and neuroweapon surveillance, which is ongoing worldwide, and he is specifically reporting from France, Grenoble, France. And in the previous 3 sections or sessions, we've been talking quite a bit about his current situation where he was wrongfully psychiatrically detained in Grenoble, France, after what appears to have been a kind of a framed situation with local police. And prior to that, he went on in parts 2 and 3 about his earliest experience of stalking and surveillance by the secret services in France, and then following him all the way to India, to various places in India. One of the most extraordinary things about his experience is that on 2 occasions, he was able to get actual proof and great awareness from, not to mention an actual confession from the people actually engaging in the stalking and surveillance in his vicinity. Once while he was on the job at work at Hewlett Packard in France, and once while he was in a place in Kashmir in India, where 4 people who were using neuroweapons on him pretty much confessed to him and fled the scene shortly after, apologizing to him. So all of this is evidence that this kind of neuroweapon stalking, surveillance, and assault on humans is ongoing worldwide, and neuroexperimentation, and is one of the main reasons that his testimony and his evidence is so very important for all of us in the world today. So let's move on at this point to talking about his experience after he came back from India, came back to France, and this was sort of in late 2006. And although he tried to go back to India, he was not entirely successful because he did get his visa with great difficulty, but then got sick directly after, being hit once again with directed energy weapons in France, and was compelled to give up the opportunity of getting a job in India and stay put in France. So we're going to pick up the story from right there. And before we start, Frederic, perhaps at this point we should ask again if you would like to take that, witness affirmation thing, so that we can prove to the world at large that you are indeed giving testimony, and you can indeed use this testimony in a court of law as you need.
Yes, sure. So I will say it.
Sure,
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, Frederic, let's, I know we spent a little time this morning going back over these events. So I'm sorry to make you retrace your steps, but
Yeah.
hopefully at this time, we can spend a little longer time, and, you can go in detail into everything. So let's start with your stay now in France after the whole trip to India, and discovering that you're really not going to go back to India again at this point. So this was early 2007?
Yes, it was in 2007. And I was staying in my mother's apartment, and it was the apartment she has bought in 2000 when my father died. And then she has lived there since 2002. And then it was the only place for me to stay, because I have lost everything. I was not having any place to stay. I was not having my stuff, my car, everything I have lost. So the only possibility was to stay with my mother, because she was having an empty bedroom, and this bedroom I could use it. And I think this was a logical step from me, and this logical step could have been also, imaginated in the head of other people too. So I noticed that when I was living with my mother, and then I was under attack in her apartment, in the bedroom she gave me. So it was the same apartment where I have tried before to sleep there when the building was totally empty, and some people went in the same very building, because they were already having the double of the key of the building that was fresh built new, and they have been in the apartment above mine, and they have tortured me a few hours there. So I think they had guessed my move, that I was going to stay with my mother, and even before that I come back from India, they had already installed themselves in the building. So immediately when I was staying with my mother, I didn't need to wait for someone to shift from the apartment to free an apartment and for them to enter the building. They were already here before that I come back to India, because they were already expecting that if I come back to France, I would definitely stay with my mother. So they had installed themselves in the same building of my mother. So one of my friends, he was having a disease that prevented him from sleeping sometime, and he told me that it was difficult for him to get a job because of that, and he knew that I was having a kind of problem that prevented me to go for a job, because I cannot sleep perfectly in the night, and sometimes I have to not sleep at all, and it was happening once or twice a month. I could not sleep at all for one night, sometimes 2 nights consecutively. And my friend told me that he had seen a doctor, and this doctor made a file, a case about his situation, and he applied from the government to be granted a certificate of a person who is having a handicap. So such a person, if she's recognized by the state as being a handicapped person, he can get more easily a job, because when a company is hiring a handicapped person, then it helps the company to pay less money to the government for not hiring enough handicapped person, because we have a law in France that every corporate, more than 100 person in the company, they have to hire 6% of handicapped person, and if they are not paying that, they will pay if they are not hiring the 6%, they will pay a fine. So to avoid paying the fine, they are trying to get 6% of handicapped person. So it's a way to get a job easier when you have a health problem. So he gave me the idea, and I went to see the same doctor I was having before India, and with him we made a lot of tests about my pains I have in my lower abdomen, and with all the tests we did, we could not find any explanation of the pains that prevent me from sleeping sometimes. And the doctor said, if we apply for you to be a handicapped person for physical reason, we will fail. It will not work. We have no proof of physical problems in your body. So it's better to apply for a psychic problem, and that's maybe what you suffer from is something in the order of a psychological problem. And I say, well, okay, maybe let's do like that. So he filled the report and my case and the form by applying that I was suffering from a kind of psychological problem, and this psychological problem was causing me the pain, and this pain was preventing me from sleeping. So finally, I was not sure we can get anything out of that, but in 2008, I was granted the recognition, and from that, it was more easy to get a job.
Can I
And
ask
in
you
2000,
one question?
yes,
This doctor who sort of suggested that you put this down as a psychological handicap or a psychological disability, was he a general physician or
yeah, he was a general physician.
he was
Yeah,
your primary physician?
yes, my primary one.
Very interesting. So did he, after he made this suggestion, did he have you go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that?
Yes, it's me. It's me who asked him. I told him I want to see a psychiatrist again, but not from the hospital. I want to see someone from who is having his own place where I can go. And he told me, yes, I know a very good psychiatrist. He's from the French Lacanian school. So is a very good psychiatrist, but the problem is that in the Lacanian school in France, they have theories, psychiatrist theories that are very odd and very special. But anyway, I was trusting my doctor, and when he told me you can go to see him, I said yes, I would like to see this doctor. And why I was asking the help of a psychiatrist? Because for the moment, I have never thought that the psychiatrists had behaved wrongly against me. Of course, they made a wrong diagnosis about me, but I was not very much angry about that. And because for me, they were giving me a pill, and this pill was knocking me out when I was taking the pill at night, and it was a little helping for me to get in deeper sleep when I was also taking sleeping pills and also anti-anxiogen pills. So I was having three kind of pills for helping me to sleep. So I was not thinking anything wrong about my psychiatrist. So I wanted to have one, and in my mind, I was thinking I should start to tell all my story from the beginning and everything that has happened to India. I want to find a way to tell my story. And what is the best plan for that is to talk with a psychiatrist, because he's a professional for listening someone to talk. And I was in the need to put in orders my memories and everything that has happened in my life. And I was in the need of talking to someone. And I didn't want to bother my friends or my family. And even though I would like to have done such a way, I was having no friends. And my family was only my mother and my sister. So I was having no one to talk to this about this. So I went to see the psychiatrist later on, and for many years, I think I have seen this doctor maybe from 2009 or 2008, I think, until 2015. So it was a long period I have seen this doctor. And later on, I even told him that I am interested to write a book of my story. And I want to use whatever I have said with him, I want to use that in my future book. And I was asking him, so doctor, please, I want you, when I talk to you, that you don't medicalize my speech. You just listen to whatever I say to you, but don't try to make a diagnosis about what I say. And he said, well, that's okay. But even though later, a few years later, he made a diagnosis, and I was very upset about his diagnosis. So I decided to leave him. And there is one thing he told me. He said, but I don't understand, why do you want to write a book? There is no point. I don't understand your wish to write a book about that. And when he said about that, he didn't explain me exactly his thought. And his thought was that I was having a psychological disease. So for him, it was no point to write a book about a psychological disease.
This guy, I understand, this is not the psychoanalyst you're talking about currently, right? This is the previous psychiatrist, right?
Yeah, it's a psychiatrist from 2009 to 2015.
Okay. So, yeah. But wait, was this guy the same? Was this the person that you're talking about is the psychoanalyst?
No, this one was retired. I could not see him anymore. After my coming back from India, he got retired. He was no more here.
I see. Okay.
So it was a new one.
Okay, so very interesting, though. You talked to the psychiatrist for quite a lot of time, between 2009 and 2015, right? And in all that time period, did he even once go and do some research on the state of non-lethal weapons in the world today and the state of neuroweapon research in the world today? Did he even figure it out for one instance? No. This is a guy with a medical degree, right? And he did not even pick up a book or go to the internet and do some basic research?
No, and even when I went to the conference in Berlin, I told him, why don't you join me and we go together there and maybe you will learn something. And he said, no, I will not go there, but why don't the person of the Berlin conference, why don't they come to France and see my psychiatry school of France that we have here? Maybe they can learn something from us.
You know, this is so incredibly amazing. It's so difficult to understand. Why would a psychiatrist, an educated man with a medical degree, not wish to further educate himself and not wish to become more informed about the state of affairs in the world today, the state of science and technology in the world today, the state of surveillance in the world today, the state of the intelligence services in the world today, and what they are doing? You know,
Yeah.
because
So
there is a
I
lot
have,
of information today on neuroexperimentation and on non-lethal weapons, which are directed energy weapons, and how they are being tested all over the world. So it's absolutely amazing. But in any case, that was sort of an aside. Let's go back to your story.
yeah, but I even show him some books and some translated articles that I have printed for him, and he took me my books and my articles. He never gave me them back, but I think he didn't bother to enter more into the details. So whatever. And the only interesting thing is that for many years he has helped me to verbalize my experience, because it's a kind of difficult to live through all these kind of things. So when you can verbalize this, it's helping you a lot. So my advice for the victims who feel lost because of the harassment and the torture, it's to talk about it with someone, talk about it and verbalize it, because when it's coming out of your mind with words and it's starting to become a coherent story, you can put it in place, it in order, so it's having a meaning and a sense, and you can understand what is happening to you by telling the story little by little to someone. So it's an important exercise. Don't keep silent, don't keep isolated, go to others and talk. So in 2009, finally, I get a job. So for one year, I work for a company, but this company is a very huge company, and I work in a team. We are two person, and we are in charge of checking the demands from the employees who wants to have an administrative accounts with a specific password to access the data or the files or the computer, the servers, like whatever. So I feel at that moment that this job is too complicated for me, because the company is very, very big, and it is too many years I have passed without working for an IT company for so long. So it's very difficult for me to enter again in the world of a big IT company. And so I feel that my colleague is starting to become upset about my difficulties to go in the details of the job. So my colleague start to become an harasser, but he was an harasser simply because he wanted to help me to progress quickly, and I was not progressing quickly enough. So he was a little making the pressure on me, and I was feeling a kind of harassment from him, and that was a little weird, because I was having an harassment at my private place, in my mother's place, and at the job I was having a second harassment from my colleague, who was expecting me a lot, and I was not able to give him all the things that he was expecting. So it was a little odd situation, but so whatever. It was a one-year job. And then in 2010, I was, during a few months, I was out of the job, and I was searching again. And then in November 2010, I got a new job also in a big company, a software company. They are providing IT services to other companies. So the other company are their customers. So I was asked to go to the city of Annecy, and the city of Annecy is in the east of Chambéry, and Chambéry is in the east of Grenoble, and Annecy is very near to Geneva in Switzerland. So I was working in a bank, and in this bank, we were having a mixed team. One half of the team was from my company, and the other half was technical person from the bank itself. So we were working together with two kind of team. And I was a little afraid that the problem from Hewlett Packard could happen again here. So I was looking everywhere if I was spotting anything weird. And at the beginning, there was nothing weird. But after maybe 1 month, or yes, maybe a few weeks, after a few weeks, I noticed that only the technical person belonging to the bank were requested by a security person to go in a separate room for half an hour each of them. So they were going to see the security person for half an hour, each of them, and the team of my company, they were not requested to go there. And I noticed that when everybody has been there and they came back, I noticed that they were starting to look at me with a strange look, and sometimes they were talking to each other by looking at me, and sometimes they were laughing. So I was feeling maybe the security person has informed them that some operation is maybe going to happen in the bank. It was regarding me, and maybe they were asked to cooperate with this operation. And then I tried to ask a few questions, what is going to happen? And they told me, yes, there is some IBM person, they are coming from IBM company, and they are going to come here and they will stay there in our office, and they will help us to develop a new project. And the new person from IBM came, and I was not very confident. Were they really from IBM or no? I was not very sure, and I was really thinking maybe it's the same thing as HP is going to happen in this bank. Mm-hmm. And at this moment, I was going from my mother's place to the bank every morning and every night. And I was very tired because it's a long distance. So I decided to stay in the hotel in Annecy. And when I stayed in the hotel, immediately I got attacked in the hotel. And when I was going outside for going to the restaurant or going on the street, there was a lot of street theaters and a lot of stalkers in the street. And in the restaurant, the 2 or 3 tables around mine, they were already filled with the stalkers, and they were laughing and talking about me. And it was already the same kind of stuff they were doing to me before I went to India, when I was already in Grenoble in 2 or 3 different apartments. So when I was living in Grenoble, they were following me in the restaurant. And then when they knew which restaurant I was about to go, they were going in the restaurant before me, and they were already at the table before I go in the restaurant. And when they were knowing which cinema I will go tomorrow afternoon, they were already in the cinema theater before me. So it was their trick to guess and to make the statistics, the probability of which place I am going the most probably to be, and then they were placing their team in the most probable place in advance. So whichever place.
Can I just ask how they picked up this information? Was it from conversations you had with people about, your plans, where you were going to go, stuff like that?
Yeah, actually, they are following me at the start for many weeks and many months. And when they know all the places that I go to, then the list, they have the list, and they have the statistics. They know that I have 60% to go there and there, and then I have 10% of chance to go there, and then 0% of chance to go anywhere else. So they know where their stuff have to be placed, to be dispatched. So they are dispatching their stuff in the different places accordingly to the statistics. So whatever place I choose, they will be here. Either the restaurant, the store, the malls, the cinema, the cafe, the streets, anywhere. So, and also by listening to my conversation when I was talking to someone on the phone or by email, and we were preparing a meeting or something, then they would have the information just
Right.
before I go there. So I am under attack in the hotel in Annecy, and in the street, in the restaurant, and they are also here. So during a week, it's very tough for me to do the job in the hotel being attacked. So I go to see the manager of the hotel, and I tell him, is it possible to book in advance, maybe 2-3 weeks in advance of next month? I want to be in the same room all the time, and I want to have the latest room you have on the latest floor. And my idea, yeah, the highest floor. Because in my thinking, I knew that when I was having the most severe pain and the most severe attacks, it was when they were above my bedroom, when they could attack me from above of my head, so at very short distance. So I was asking, can I have the last floor? Because from the last floor, they cannot be above me and they cannot attack my brain with precision. So he said, yes, that's okay. We can give you 2-3 weeks in advance, the same bedroom on the last floor. And it was scheduled like that. And then the next week, I was using this room on the last floor, and I was under attack, but it was not severe. I could sleep with my pills. It was almost okay. And then the week later, I came, and my room was no more available. And they told me, you have to use another room in the middle of the floor, in the middle of the hotel. And I said, but why? Because we have planned this a week ago. It was planned for 2-3 weeks ahead. And the lady told me, well, I don't know what happened, but all the schedule you have done has been changed. And the room is no more available. You have to sleep in the middle of the hotel. And I say, who did this? And she said, well, I'm trying to search, but I cannot find the person who changed the schedule of the next week. And somebody did this, but I cannot find who did this and why. I don't know the reason. So my belief is that the stalkers maybe have hacked the computer, or maybe they have made some pressure, or they have given money to the manager to make him change the schedule for any kind of reason. And he has accepted, or maybe he was under the pressure, or maybe he has been hacked simply. And then my safe room was no more available. So I slept there, but the pain were again very, very, very hard. So I decided at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, I escaped from here, and I went to see my doctor in Grenoble, and I told him I cannot go there anymore. Please give me a prescription so that I can stay off the job until the end of the month. So in my company, they didn't know what to think about this, but I just told them that when they have hired me, I already told them that I was a handicapped person, and it was sure that sometimes I was being sick, and they have agreed to take me, to hire me, despite that I was going to be sick sometime. So they have accepted the situation, and then in 2012, they have given me another job to do. And I was working for a company that is a government company, and that is owned by the Ministry of Defense. So I was working there for maybe 1 or 2 years. And it's necessary for working here to have a security clearance. So I was asked by a security officer, maybe he was in contact with the Ministry of Defense, or maybe also with the French Secret Services or something. And he has asked me to fill a form, which country you have been to, and for how long, for what purpose, and etc., etc. So it's just a checkup to be sure that you are not going to extract confidential data to a foreign country where it's not allowed to give confidential data. So when I told him that I have been only to India and we don't have any issue with this country, then my clearance has been granted. And I was thinking to myself, this is a little weird because this security officer is probably knowing that the Secret Service are putting me under surveillance. But anyway, my clearance has been granted because I think the reason why I am under surveillance is having nothing to do with the job that I have to do in this department working for the defense. So I was not a problem for a danger for them. So it has been clear, and maybe also it has been clear to not make me suspicious that I was officially being under the surveillance. So it was also.
Because you might have been monitored, but perhaps they were trying to give you a different impression.
Yes, yes.
And
so I was.
Before we go on, there's one question I had about your previous experience, at the bank, where you said a group of people had been brought supposedly from IBM. Did you ever find out if they were from IBM or not, or?
No, I didn't have the time because in the same time I was under attacks in the hotel, and maybe after 1 or 2 weeks I have left this job. So I didn't know more about that. But maybe, who knows? Because if they were in the hotel, they could also have been in the bank. But when I have in the year after that, when I have worked for this defense department, I could have expected the same, but it has never happened because we were in a small building, and in this building it was only filled with my colleagues from my company, and there were no people from the Department of Defense working with us. We were only with colleagues from my company. So it has not happened in this place. So, and maybe they could have tried, but they were thinking, okay, we have failed in Hewlett-Packard and we have failed in the bank of ANSI, so maybe we are not to try a third time. So they didn't try again.
I mean, that whole experience of the bank in itself is so extraordinary because in particular, related to that room, the room that you had initially booked was removed, and then you were forced to go back and stay in the middle floor again, where you started to get severely attacked again, because it was easy for them to attack from above when you were below, as you point out.
Yeah.
So
yes.
that whole experience is so extraordinary. But in any case, you escaped, you came back, and you started a new job now at the Ministry of Defense. And do you feel that this new workplace was a lot safer? You didn't experience assault on the job?
No. So this is the interesting thing. It's that in my private life, I am under attack, but in my job place, I am not attacked. Okay. So I was feeling more happy to go to the job because I was passing 8 hours per day without any attacks. And it's only when I come back to my place and when I want to try to sleep, I am under attack. So I was feeling more and more happy to be at the job. And I think one of my psychiatrists noticed that I was more happy at the job than in my private life. And when later my manager tried to fire me, and they have used the pretext of the stickers I had put on my car, and they have used that against me to pretend that I was not mentally fit to continue the job anymore. And my psychiatrist said, no, Mr. Frederic Laroche is perfectly okay, but okay, maybe he's a little special, maybe he has some kind of special ideas, but that's okay. He can do the job, and he's very, very happy to go to the job, and he needs that. it's important for him to go to the job because he's more safe at the job than in his private life. And it's not a danger for you at the job because there is nothing special happening at the job. It's only when he's at home that it's not going very well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also interesting when I have compared the reaction from electro hypersensitive person and my reaction to the position in the hotel floor, because the electro hypersensitive person always try to be at the lower floor of any building to not receive the electromagnetic waves from the cell tower. And me, I always try to be at the higher level of the hotel to not be attacked by the stalkers who are trying to be in the upper room of mine. So this is how I can see the difference. A hyper sensitive, electro hypersensitive person, he will try to be on the lower floor, and me, because I am not sensitive to the cell towers, but I am being stalked specifically by people, and they are coming to the floor above mine. So me, I am trying to go on the upper floor, and the cell tower, I don't bother. If the cell tower is just next to me, it doesn't do anything to me. It's only the people who are on the floor upper of mine, they can attack me better from this position.
You know, there's another question too to be asked about the workplace. Now, did you say this new workplace was at the Ministry of Defense? This building belonged to the Ministry of Defense?
I think the building and the land, I think it was belonging to the Ministry of Defense, but it was not the ministry of by itself. It was a kind of department under the control of the Ministry of Defense, because I think it's the place where the French scientists, they have studied the atomic bombs. It's in this place that they have studied how to make the atomic bomb and how to make the nuclear reactor to get electricity out of that. So it's belonging to, it's something that is handled by the Ministry of Defense.
I
but
see.
it's
some kind of scientific research facility.
It's a research facility. Yeah.
I see. Okay. And so you were pretty safe in this research facility. So you did not exactly experience directed energy weapon attacks in that building on the job. So nobody was hitting you while you were on the job. Had you experienced directed energy weapons attacks or neuroweapons attacks on the job elsewhere, like in the bank or at Hewlett-Packard?
No, in the bank, actually, there was nothing. I just saw a strange behavior in the last week, but there were no attack in the bank. It's in the hotel only that it has started. Yeah, it could have continued in the bank. I am not sure about that.
Okay. But you felt super safe at the Ministry of Defense, at this research facility. Very safe.
Yes.
Which is also very interesting because it suggests that, you know, they are not permitting the use of neuroweapons inside the facility or the use of directed energy weapons on people.
Yes. I think they are a protected area, and this kind of things cannot happen there. So I was benefiting of that.
Right. Marvelous. Yeah.
And then after, it was for 2 years, and well, I was working well, but I was still out of the job twice a month because of my attacks in my mother's place. And in 2011, I forgot, I have shifted from my mother's place and I went to a new building.
Oh, right. Yes.
And this building was brand new, and there was an appointment for every renter to come on the same day to get the keys. And there was only one person that was not here. It was the renter of the apartment above mine. He was not here to take the key. So I think this guy, or this two person, because I think there were two person in this apartment, they were having the apartment well ahead of everyone. And it was a 4-floor building. I was having an apartment in the 3rd floor, and these people, they were above me and they were on the 4th floor. So right from the beginning, I should have guessed there was something wrong, but I didn't pay attention to that. That everyone was coming to pick up the keys at the same day, except the people above my apartment. And then right away, when I shifted there, I started to feel the attack, and there was no need to wait for anyone to shift. It was already the people who were attacking me. They were already in the building. So I was thinking it's probably the people above me. And in this apartment, the window were always open clearly, so we could see the light from inside the building 24 hours 7. The light were always on in this apartment, and I could not never meet the person in the stair or in front of the building. I could never meet the person. So I was under attack in this apartment in 2011 and 2012. And then in the end of 2012, my manager in my company, he told me, you are too oftenly sick, so it's not good for our team to shift the members for the hours for the schedule. So we cannot keep you in this job. So you have to go away from this scientific research center, and you have to do another job. So I have moved from there to the main, the head office of my company. And there they gave me a small function, a small job to do. And it was very low level job. It was, I think it was a hotline, but with the level of 0 or level of 1. Whereas I was capable of level 2 or level 3. So I think it was a punishment. They were giving me a very stupid job to do, to make me annoyed and to make me upset, so that I can feel the urge of resigning from the company, because they didn't want to keep me anymore, and they didn't know how to do without firing me, because if they were firing me, they had to provide a reason, and if there were no reason, I could ask for money compensation, and they didn't want to pay that. So they gave me a low-level job to do to annoy me, and I was very upset about that. And actually, my own managers in my company, they were harassing me in my job, but they were not my stalkers. They were just my managers. So I was being harassed psychologically by my managers on my job place, but there were no attacks, physical attacks with the microwave. It was not there. And in the same place, in the same moment, I mean, I was in my apartment, in my new apartment, and I was under attack during the nights and the weekends and the holidays there.
And is that the time period that you were getting those kinds of attacks that you were describing earlier, where it sort of sounded like a kind of trauma-based mind control, where you were getting physical attacks, and then
yes, it has happened once.
Getting neuro attacks as well.
Is that
place where you were experiencing that? Did you want to describe that a little bit, because I think that would be very helpful for others.
I have stayed there from 2011, 12, 13. So I have stayed there 3 years. Okay. So during 3 years, I have learned a lot about what they were doing to me, what was the protocol, what was the procedure. And but I was not having the theoretical knowledge that I have found later in the books of Robert Duncan. And Robert Duncan explained very well by making a comparison about how to attack a computer or a software or a machine, and how to attack a brain. And it's almost the same thing. It is making a nice comparison between the two. So it's only later that I discovered the theoretical background that is there. But anyway, by myself, I noticed there was a logical step that were followed. So it's an attack in 2 steps. They cannot go in the second step if the first step has not been successful. So the first step is always to trigger on me my instinct, my anger, my sadness, my being sleepy, or my sexual arousal and my sexual excitation. So usually what they try to do is they trigger all of these, and if they can have one, they can go further and further and further. They will try to make it work artificially. So for example, on my case, I was very sensitive to the sexual attack, and they have continued to attack me on the sexual side only. They have stopped attacking anything else. They were attacking me on my weakest side. So the weakest side was my sexuality. So they were trying to make me feel sexually aroused and sexually excited, and also to have some orgasm. Sometimes it was artificial orgasm, and sometimes they were also capable of making me ejaculate in my bed. So it was the first phase. And when they were succeeding this, when they were probing their method to trigger my sexuality artificially, then they could go on the second phase. And the second phase, it's using the brain waves that I emit during the orgasm, because I think that's the way they do it. When I have an orgasm made artificially, they are recording my brain waves. And then in the second phase, they are sending back to me these waves, my very own waves of my orgasm made artificially. And they are sending me that to my brain, and my brain is immediately trying to synchronize to this artificial broadcast. And by doing this, it's if it is like if you were giving a candy to a kid, and then after giving the candy to the kid is so happy to have the candy, then you can ask him to do whatever you want, because the kid is very happy, he has this candy. So by giving me my own pleasure waves, it's like if they were giving me a candy and my brain was open to whatever they could do next. So they were using my pleasure wave as a Trojan virus to enter from a back door of my brain. And they were opening up my brain with my pleasure that my brain was happy to feel again. And after my brain was granting the access, then they could put more things inside. And they were attacking me on every areas of my brain. I was feeling my anger was triggered. I was feeling my memory was damaged. I was feeling my wish to go for sleeping was triggered, and maybe they wanted me to collapse and to lose my conscience. So and maybe they were also trying to split my personality into pieces, because when you are attacked in many places in your mind, many areas, functional areas. So you are trying to calm down the situation in every spot, every places. So I am trying to calm down my pleasure. I am trying to calm down my nervosity. I am trying to calm down my fear. And I try to calm down so many things in the same time. I cannot handle that, and I crash. This is the crashing of the system.
And you said earlier that it was like 1,000 fires going off in your brain at one time, right?
Yeah, it's like
simultaneously feeling all of these different emotions and these different influences from the outside. Feeling theta waves of sleep hitting you is at the same time as you're feeling intensive waves of emotion regarding anger or grief or sadness.
Yes, everything was triggered, and I was feeling they were igniting fire at every places possible in my brain, and then I had to put water on every spot where the fire has started, and it was impossible to remove the fire from every places.
And that's when you felt your brain was crashing, your system was.
Yeah, and they have done this a few times, and then on the 22nd December of 2014, I think, 2013, the 22nd December of 2013, they have managed to attack me in the same way like before I went to Turkey. So I was feeling a very intense pain coming from above, and it was melting my brain. It was melting the brain, and it was make me going into the coma and going to vanish completely, losing my conscience. And I was feeling I am going to be killed, like before I went to Turkey. So I have escaped in the middle of the night, and I found refuge with my family again. So I stayed there with my mother 2 months in the beginning of 2014, and then I found a new place, a new house that was more isolated, and there were most importantly, there were no neighbors above me. So I was in a small house, and there were a few neighbors, but they were maybe 10 or 15 meters far from me, and the only thing I didn't pay very much attention is that in front of the house there was a big building with 5 or 6 floors, and this building is a social building which means that the poor people can ask for a money support to live in this kind of building, and there is a lot of people moving in and moving out every year. So when I was in the house, it was almost perfect. But then many people in this building have shifted out and in, and I started to be under the attack again. So I think it's in the end of 2014, I decided that maybe I should try to protect myself with a shielding, like a Faraday cage. Then I have been on the internet. And it was my first experience of searching information on the internet about that topic, because never before, from the first time in '98 until 2014, I have never been on the internet for searching information about all this. And I have everything I have discovered and analyzed by myself. And then I was a little in distress. I was not finding any more solutions. So I was thinking, maybe I can build a Faraday cage, but I need some information about that. So I was not searching about targeted individual or microwave attacks or stalking. I was not searching for that. I was searching for how to build a Faraday cage. And I find a few websites of some people, and particular one in France, and he wants to build a Faraday cage, him too. And he says that he wants to protect himself from electromagnetic waves that are being sent to him by weapons that are being held by the secret services. And I was thinking, wow, this is crazy. He says the same thing that is happening to me, and it's happening to him too. So I was very much surprised that I was not the only one, because at the beginning, for many years, I was thinking I was the only one, and it was only happening in France. And then I saw that I was not the only one in France, and even there were more people in the world than in the US. And then in the US, I have seen that some people are complaining about this even from a longer period than me. So I was very amazed to see that information, and I started to read many pages, and I saw some organizations, some NGOs, some association. I have contacted the FFCH organization, and I talked with Derek Robinson, and he put me in contact with some person in France that they are still my good friends here, and he gave me some association and organization in Europe, and I have sent many mails to this person and to this organization, association, etc. And I wanted to get in touch and to have information and to know each other, etc. And no replies. After 1 month, after 2 months, no replies. And I go on a forum. It's a French forum, and I complain about that. And some people reply to me, "Oh, maybe they have too much work to do, and maybe they cannot reply to everyone." So I was thinking this is a little weird. And then from the month of March 2015, so it was 2 months after sending all the emails, I was feeling a pain in my right ear, and it was kind of irritation. And I was feeling this irritation many times a day, and it is still there, and it has started in March 2015. It has never been there before, and it was 2 months after I have sent many mails to this association and organization. So my thinking is that maybe I was having some kind of chip in my brain or in my ear, and this was not activated. But when I have contacted many organizations, maybe some of them were fake organization, and they were just here to catch the victim who are trying to make their coming out. So they are trying to catch them, and when they are caught, maybe after that they can activate some chip in the person to, and I don't know what is the purpose of this chip, but probably I have one in the ear. And since this time I still feel a kind of irritation a few times per week. So I don't know.
That's a very interesting theory, because you're suggesting basically that perhaps you had been implanted earlier, but that the chip was possibly only activated after you got in touch with FSCHS and then with some other French groups that FSCHS put you in touch with. Now, that's a very interesting understanding, because what you are talking about is the possibility of fake government groups having been set up and operating in our midst that are seeking, in a sense, to find out who's coming forward to protest against or to speak out against targeting with electromagnetic weapons, right? And in a sense, put those people in a database and track them even more closely further. In a sort of a more global way. Because you have contacted organizations in the US as well as in France. And now all of a sudden you find, and in Europe, and you suddenly find that you're being tracked in an extreme way with this possible cochlear implant, right, in your ear.
But my guess, because I have been very active in 2016 and 2017. My guess is that the chip, it's a common thing. I think they are spreading the chip all over the world, and I think every human being is filled with the chip already, and even the animals. Everybody living on this planet is having many chips in his body, because we are breathing the chip and we are drinking and eating the chips.
Are you talking about nanotechnology, the nanochips?
Yeah, I think it's the way they are doing it. They are spreading the nanochip in the atmosphere, and it's going in the water, and then we are drinking it.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody is having chip, and it's only after that a question of when the person is going to be targeted. Then they just scan the person, and they know which chip the person is having, and they just need to activate the proper chip in the place that they need in the different parts of the body. And I think we have chips everywhere in the body, but they only activate the ones that they need on specific places, and they only activate the chip in a person if the person becomes targeted. Otherwise, I think everybody is already chipped, but they will not forcibly target everyone for the moment. They are just choosing some certain person.
That's very interesting because I think in previous times, other people such as Paul Baird, who's got the wonderful website Surveillance Issues, he's talked about how everybody, in a sense, is brain scanned, but they start pursuing and tracking very closely those people whom they call persons of interest, people who start standing out in some way or the other. Then they're scanned very closely. Their biorest frequencies are monitored, and so forth. Their brain prints are monitored constantly, and so forth. And now, in this time period where we are getting rained on with nanobots that are entering our bodies, as you say, and lodging in our nervous systems and in our brains, and all over our body, it sounds like, we suddenly become walking computers. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that every single chip has a serial number that is unique. And they can trigger whichever serial number that they need after scanning the person. When they have scanned the person, they know that the chip number 101 is here, the chip number 200 is here, the chip 300 is here, and then they can activate from the distance whichever chip they have scanned, and it's already there. It's ready for them to use whenever they want.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about nanochips. So even these nanochips have these serial numbers and handles. And
yeah, I think every chip is having a unique identifier.
I see. That's very interesting because it's so interesting to get your perspective from the IT world.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, all of this is sort of this whole move to move humans into computers and into association, close association, biological association with computers, or the whole field of cybernetics, merging man and machine. So
yeah,
quite extraordinary and shocking in many, many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and I think it's all the living being they have nanochips, even the animals.
Ready. Yeah. So right now,
so
if everybody's been rained on, literally.
Yeah.
So it's a Internet of Things, right? We're already there.
Yeah. So it's a pollution, and it's an abomination. It's an offense to the laws of nature and to the living being.
Absolutely.
They are damaging the nature.
Mm-hmm. They're destroying the environment. They're destroying nature. They're destroying animals, and they're destroying humans all at once, right?
Yeah.
And no one gave them permission to do this.
No. So finally, I also find some interesting book to read. So this is Robert Duncan, Soul Catcher, and also John Hall. And he has also given me his personal signature here because I have met him in the conference in Berlin.
Oh, wonderful.
And another book from John Hall is trying to make a movie out of this, but I don't know if we will succeed. And another book from Nick Begich that is also very interesting. And then, of course, the book from Ronikild, and I have a few books of her in my possession, and I am trying to make the books sold from France for 40 euro for one book I can send everywhere in France and in Europe. So I'm trying to promote her book.
That's terrific.
And so I discovered there was a conference that was going to happen in Berlin in October 2015. So I was thinking to myself, now that I have discovered the world is being targeted, I want to know the truth. I want to know more. I want to go to this conference because I could not go in the Brussels conference in 2014 because it was in October 2014, and I was not aware of the situation in the world. I was still thinking I was the only one.
And this is the COVID harassment conference, right? That was being organized in Europe. Yeah.
So I was willing to go there, and then in September I was very much attacked in September 2015 in my home. I was very much severely attacked, and even I had to move some nights to my family's place to sleep away from my home. And even there at my mother's place, I was under attack again. After successfully sleeping a few nights, I was again attacked at my mother's place. And I was not knowing what to do. Should I stay there? Should I go to Berlin? And finally, I decided to go by car. And I did the journey in 2 days. 2 days I was sleeping in the middle in Germany, and then I came to Berlin. And then in Berlin, I discovered the truth. Every conferencer, every people talking, they were explaining very interesting things, and they were also displaying some kind of slides, and with the slides they were explaining the scientific background they could understand from their point of view, because they were researchers, they were scientists, doctor, also some lawyers, journalists, and people coming from the human rights organization, etc., and activists also, and victims, they were also coming here. So I have met maybe 200 other victims here, and they were coming from the entire world. And I was ashamed that I was the only French person in this conference. So I was having in April 2015, 2 friends from a cinema school in Paris. They came to visit me during 3 days, and they made a movie about me. So they have made a shooting during 3 days of 5 hours long, and from that they have reduced to a short movie of 20 minutes. And I decided to bring it here in the conference with English subtitles, and I have shown the movie there, and everybody was very happy to see this movie about me. And then they came to me, and we were talking and exchanging our email address. So I became friends of the organizers, and Beata and Peter and some others. They became friends, and some other victims also. So I kept in touch with them, and I came back, and then I decided to build a website, and I decided to upload my video on YouTube. And I started to write a website, and the title of my website is Our Torture is Real. And I wanted to use the word torture, and I wanted to use the word real. And I didn't want to say my torture. I wanted to say our torture, because already in my mind, it was necessary to think globally as a social group. We are a social group of victims. So we must, when we speak up, we must not speak up for each one. We must speak up for everyone. So we must talk in the name of everyone. So it's our torture, and our torture is not psychological. Our torture is real. So I think it was the most the best way to start talking about my story. So I started to talk about the video first, and then I started to write more data, more information, and more links to other websites. And I wanted to educate the French people of what was happening to the victims like me. So this was in the end of 2015, and then in 2016.
Can you show us your website? We can do that. You know, if you want to do your
here
for a minute.
I will share my screen. I will show you. So this is my website. So this is in French. Notre torture est réelle. So we can also have the website in English. It's partly translated in English, but it's not totally translated in English. So it's written like this: Our torture is real. So I have tried to be a little artistic. So and creative. So I have written some slogan here. So and I have also made this design, these drawings. So I have used this
Great.
during street protest: stop gang stalking, stop electromagnetic torture. The danger, it's the secrets. So we are your immune response. Awaking us will reveal you. Proud to not remain your victims. And here, we are not those that you say.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah.
And then I have made some big boards with a kind of slogan. So very soon, we are going to be all victims of police harassment and electronic torture. Believing or not, it is not the question, but to know about it before it is too late.
That's absolutely wonderful. It goes to exactly the heart of the message, really, that people who are being targeted currently are trying to alert the entire world about. That
Yes.
this electronic surveillance is absolutely going on. And in fact, it's possibly being directed at everybody, not just a small group.
Yes. So then I am talking about my video. So the video is here. So this is on YouTube. And I am explaining the content of my video. And I am also explaining in details how I can explain the pains I have and how is it coming from and how is functioning the brain so that this kind of thing can be done to a person. And then I'm talking about the books of John Hall, Ronnie Kild, Robert Duncan, Nick Begich, and then I'm talking about some website. And I have started to make some translations. So here I have made a translation of an article from Veterans Today. So this is the article, and it is in two parts. So I have translated this. So it's all here in French language. And then it has been quoted by many blogs in France because the translation is very good. It's a high quality translation. It took me many weeks to complete this.
That's brilliant. You're doing a great service for everybody in France and Europe, really.
And then here I am trying to make the translation of the text of Ronnie Kild. So, for example, here I've translated one of her chapter, and then again here I have translated another text of one of her chapters. So it's all translated in French, and I wanted to translate more, but it's taking too much time of mine, so it's a little difficult. So this is me at the Covert Harassment Conference. So you can see here Berlin, 1-2 October 2015, and you can see here there is Nick Begich, and what he was saying was very interesting. And then there is another person, Kevin Barrett. What he said was also very interesting. And Professor Ole Johnson, it was also very interesting. And of course, John Hall was here. And then I think there is another person who was very interesting. Let me check. Yeah, it's Ole Damgaard. Ole Damgaard, it's this guy. And he was not a victim, but he was investigating on many cases in the US where the military or the Secret Service are involved. And he was being not stalked, but he was being under surveillance. And he knew that this was a problem in his life, and he found a method to avoid feeling the harassment. And he's using yoga meditation. And he was in the conference to explain us how to use meditation and yoga exercise to train your brain to forget about the harassment and to forget about the torture and about the pain. And right away, when I listened to his presentation at the conference, the same very night, I have used his advices to try to sleep without my shielding, because I was having a lot of shielding in my bedroom, and I have removed all the shielding, and I was using his method of concentration and meditation and positive thinking, and it was working very fine. It was effective.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yeah.
marvelous to know.
And
So
then
you continue
this,
using that method, and did it work?
yes, it's working. Actually, you have to be concentrated on yourself all the time. You must not be um, um, entertained or amused or distracted by something external of you. You must be very concentrated on yourself. So if you think deeply about what is your mind status at this very moment, then you can keep connected to your inner state, and you can avoid to be distracted by an external an external influence that is trying to make you go in the wrong direction,
I
and to
see.
make you feel anger, to make you feel the pain.
Oh,
So
I see.
by meditating, you can help yourself to avoid being your brain entrained to a different direction that is not yours. So this is me at the conference, and this is my movie that was presented here. And then on my website, I'm also talking about a book of Naomi Klein, who wrote a political book that is explaining how the capitalistic world has created a lot of evil thing in the modern world just to make more money on the poor people. So this is interesting to see connection with political explanation on the background of what the victims are living. And then there is also some books of philosophers, and then I have also made a list of the whistleblower, so Brian Tew. And this is the same list from the website of Dr. Catherine Horton. So I have made the same list here of the whistleblower, because this is very important to show that there are existing whistleblower. And then here I'm talking only about the case of the Dr. Catherine Horton. So I am presenting her website, her video, and I have made 3 translation in French of 3 of her video. And then here it's a tsunami email campaign I have translated in French here. And here it's also a text I have written myself, and I have used also one of her video where she's talking about the problem of the corruption, and then the problem of the directed energy weapons, and then the problem of the finance, and then the problem of the economy, and then the problem of the ecosystem. And she said, we have to start at the root here of the corruption, and then we have to remove the directed energy weapons, and then we have to clear the world of finance, and then we have to make an economy that is more social, and then we have to save the planet from all the damage we have done to it. So I have made a political program out of this. And then it's the list of all the links going to her video on her YouTube channel. And after that, I have made this post on Twitter, and this is my translation of the books. And then I have made a list of, and here I'm talking about the microwave syndrome. So the microwave syndrome, it's some effects that we can have on the health of a human being, and it's attacking the organs at several positions in the human body. And this is the list of the symptoms that we can have: pains in the head, nausea, feeling depressed, having insomnia, etc., etc. So I have started to distribute these flyers on the street, because they are flyers. So I have distributed this in the street. And here I am explaining how we can make a blood test and a urine test and also a brain test to check if we have been irradiated by microwave. And I have been to do the test, and I will show you after that the result I have from the doctor. And this is my list of what we must request from our government. So the first thing is that we should, all of us, we should make a group complaint. And then we should write on the constitution that the brain prints only belong to the person itself and not to any private company. And then we must also control, the citizen must control by themselves what is being done with the electromagnetic waves. And we must remove whatever is a secret in our society, and we must go away from NATO. And the gang stalking and the electromagnetic harassment should be recognized by the state, and it must be recognized as a new way of torture.
Actually, Frederick, could you enlarge the font size on your screen so that we can see a little bit of the text?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it over here. Maybe it's maybe other people can see it, but I just wondered if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see. It's a little bigger now. No? Is it bigger now? So I will just continue. Okay, so, and then I was also saying that we must educate the doctors and the people about all these things, because this is important. The doctors must help the people regarding this. So I was making a lot of revendication.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was talking about the methods to being protected. So there is a website that is interesting because it's predicting how the sun will behave in the next 3 days, and it's giving a number here, and this number is going from 1 to 9, and when the number is higher than 4, it means that the disturbance, the magnetic disturbance from the sun will be high enough to disturb some satellites. So we can expect the dysfunctionment of the satellites that are being used for the torture. So when the sun is having a high activity that is going higher than 4, we can expect during these days that the torture by satellite will not be possible. So it's interesting to see that information.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So is that on a separate website? Somebody has done this kind of analysis about the satellites and the sun?
Yes, it's a separate website. It's spaceweatherlive.com.
Yeah, but Space Weather Live, is that sort of an astronomy website that just tells you what the sun is doing?
Yes, yes.
Is there another website that correlates what the sun is doing with information from the satellites?
I don't know. I didn't try to check for another website. Yeah.
Okay, but it's your analysis is what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, actually, I was talking with someone in the conference in Berlin, and the lady told me that she has noticed that every time she was having a kind of release of the harassment, it was matching with an extra activity of the sun during these times. So it seems to indicate that when the sun is having a high activity with a lot of magnetic activity, it's disturbing some satellite functioning. And then
it's interesting that there is a connection with satellites, because a lot of people say that it's not satellites, it's probably just cell towers, it's local antennas.
Yeah, but not only. I think satellites are also involved, and I think they are using a multiple kind of network.
Platforms. Yes.
Yes, they are using all kind of network altogether.
Yeah, that's what my research points to as well. A multitude of platforms, both satellites, airborne, that's aircraft and drones, as well as cell towers. And then,
Yes.
local antennas at the ground level, even on people's houses, that are pulling in the signals from the towers or the satellites or the drones.
So I have found an interesting article, a medical article. It's explaining that the male hormone, the testosterone, is involved in the process of sexual arousal. So if the testosterone can be blocked, then the brain is not able to feel the sexual arousal. And I was thinking to try this medicine, but my doctor refused to give me this medicine because it's a medicine to block the testosterone hormone. So I have found the medicine online, and I have taken that from, I think it was coming from Turkey. And I have tried this medicine, and during the time I was trying this medicine, I have stopped the antipsychotic that I was being given. So I have stopped the antipsychotic because the antipsychotic, it was giving me a knocking out to make me sleep, but it was not preventing the pains from happening. And when I have used this testosterone blocker, I discovered that the pains, I didn't feel them anymore. So I have understood at this moment how the process was working. Actually, they were trying to trigger my sexual organs to function in the way that they wanted to control. And if I was blocking this control of my genitals, if I was blocking this by blocking the testosterone, then I was not feeling the pains. And so what were exactly those pains? Actually, the pains, it was myself trying to block their action. So the pain, it was not caused by them. They were only trying to activate my genitals. And me, I was responding to this fake attack of myself. And I was able to recognize it was not myself doing this to me. And I was trying to block their attack. And it was making me feel pains because it was using my muscles on these areas to block the vibration, etc., etc. So it was myself that I was doing to myself the pain because I was trying to block the effects they were doing to me by vibrating my genitals. So if I was blocking the use of the testosterone in my brain, my genitals were still shaking. It was still shaking, but I was not feeling any connection with any sexuality, so any sexual feeling. So I was not feeling the need to block that. So my muscles were totally released and totally relaxed, and then there was no pain. So I discovered the mechanism. It's very, very subtle mechanism. So they are attacking my genitals. Then I feel that I am under attack. Then I am trying to counterattack with my own muscles, trying to strangulate my genitals by myself. And it is at this moment that I feel the pain, because it's myself who is giving the pain to me to block this external arousal. And if you block the sexual aspect of it, if you block it with blocking the testosterone, then the brain doesn't recognize this is a sexual arousal. So you still feel your genitals vibrating, but for the brains, it has no meaning anymore. And then you are not trying to counterattack that. So you are not using your muscles to fight that back. And then your muscles are perfectly relaxed and you are not feeling the pains anymore. So it took me a long time to understand how they were doing this, but this medicine is blocking the male sexual hormone, and it's very effective to block whatever they are.
It sounds highly subtle and complicated and intricate, but
Yeah.
I think you explain it very well.
So then I can show you what I have done later in my place. So it was I think it was in April 2016. So there was a protest movement called La Nuit Debout. So La Nuit Debout means standing standing awake in the night.
Mm-hmm.
So
And this
there
was
were a group
happening
of,
in Paris and all over France,
yeah,
right?
it has started in Paris
Yeah.
in beginning of 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has spread out all over France. And when it has reached my place in Grenoble, so it was here, and it was a camp standing here with many tents, and people were sleeping here during the night. And here it's like a amphitheater, so people were sitting here, and there were a lot of political talkings, and then the people were voting to make a decision about whatever subject has been discussed. So I can show you a little closer, and then another one a little closer, another one a little closer, another one a little closer, and you can see here there is a red sign here, and we'll come a little closer, and you can guess that it's me. I was having my stand here, so it's me. I was having this,
Oh, right. Yes.
and I was in this protest, and I was staying there maybe 2-3 nights and 2-3 days.
Brilliant.
And it was arranged, so people were coming to me, and I was talking to them about my website, about what is happening to me, and I wanted to educate them that maybe it's going to happen to them next, so they should be concerned. So all the books were here, and some flyers of translated page of the books that I have made. So it's all here. So the problem is that the first 3 nights it was okay, but after the fourth night, some people came to me, and they told me that I cannot stay there because I am going to give a bad aspect to the movement, because people are going to think this movement is a conspirationist, and is a complotist movement, and maybe is from is influenced by a extreme right wing of the political side, and maybe with Nazi ideas, or maybe with anti-Semite ideas. So they didn't want me to come here anymore. So I decided to place my car in the parking lot behind the place where they were having the camping. So I decided to place my car in the parking, and I was continuing to demonstrate my stand in the parking. So maybe, and then after that I went to Paris, and in Paris there was a lot of people. So I was standing here. This is the Place de la République in Paris. So you have a lot of people here, and I was standing here, and you see how it's happening here. And I have made a little debate in this place.
So did more people come up and speak to you in Paris?
Yes, so I have talked here. You see, Frederick has come to talk about the electro-hypersensitive person, and also about the electro-targeted person. So I was mixing the two, because I was thinking it's more educative if I start talking first.
Absolutely.
Of the,
and that's an excellent term, the electro-targeted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is my testimony, and then my video, my website, the books I am translating. So in this place, it's called educpopdebout.org. So it's
Do you mind sending me that link, Frederick? So I'll put it at the bottom of this video so people can go there and look at it.
Yeah, I will send you this.
Brilliant.
And then I will show you what I have done in the months of June 2016. I have placed giant stickers on my car.
Yeah.
And this is the reason I went into more troubles. So you see on my car, it was displayed this much
Yeah.
big and everywhere.
That's brilliant activism, and hats off to you for having the courage to do that. There's one other activist in the US who has done that, James Shin, who's got a fabulous car that he's actually decorated with all sorts of text, including 9/11, The Great Deception, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars,
Yeah.
and then information on targeting, EMF targeting, and directed energy weapons.
And I have been also with this car in a street protest. So you can see there is a red flag here. It's a Union flag. And I was also in the street to protest. And I have asked the permission of this person if I can be with the people, because there will be a very big crowd crossing all the city, and I wanted that my car be with the crowd. And they told me, well, if you stay in the queue, this is perfect. You can stay with us. You stay back in the queue. And I was following everyone with my car. And finally, there were some police person. They came to me and they told me that they were not allowing me to be among the protesters. So they managed to take my car a little aside, and I was not very happy with this. So I managed to bring back my car with the crowd, and then again. There were some people from La Nuit Debout who were here, and they recognized me, and they were telling, oh, this guy is a conspirationist, a complotist, and he's from the political extreme right wing, and is having ideas from the Nazi, from anti-Semite, etc. So we don't want this guy with us. And they told that to the police, and the police was asking to the union, and the union they didn't remember who gave me the permission to be here. So the police they took this occasion that no one could confirm me that I was allowed to be here. So the police told me, listen, sir, you must go away from here because you are not on our list. So we have a list of authorized person, and you are not among those persons, so you must stay away. So I know that from that moment, I was not very much liked by the police in Grenoble. And that's later that I discovered how much hate they were having about me, because they have managed to settle an entrapment, and it's basically it is the the police chief who managed to make me arrested in 2017.
Right.
But there is also something important I want to say. It's in March 2017, I have done the test in Paris with an important doctor for a hypersensitive person, and he made a test of my brain, and this is the result I got from the scanning of my brain. So you can see here, it's the shape of a brain. It's the map of a brain. So you can see it here. So this is the middle of the brain. So this is the right wing of the brain, and this is the left wing of the brain. And the colors here, they are showing how much oxygen is passing through the brain. And you can see here on the external side, I have a lot of oxygen here and here also, but in the middle, I don't have oxygen here in the center of my brain. And now I will show you another picture. So this picture is from a brain that doesn't have any problem. So it is having oxygen from the external side, here and here, and in the middle is having also a lot of oxygen inside. So this brain, it is perfectly sane. There is nothing wrong with this. But the other one is having a problem. You see, is having oxygen in the outside, oxygen in the outside, but in the middle, and the middle, it's the thalamus and the limbic system, it's having no oxygen. So this brain has been damaged by microwaves. And now I will show you both. So this is mine, and you have the two samples. So on this one, it's the good one. And in here, it's the one that is having some problems. So which one my brain is looking the most? I think it's looking more to this one. So the brain that is damaged. So it's the proof I have here
Right.
that my brain has been damaged by an over excess of irradiation by microwave during many years.
Mhm.
But
Now, the second image that you had on the 2-image printout, where did that
yes,
come from? The bottom one.
it's coming from a conference from the doctor he did in the French Assembly in 2013.
So that's not
So
your brain. That's the second one.
no, no. This is a sample from. It's taken from a video from the doctor he did. It's a presentation.
And it
So this
has
is
to do.
a
It has to
sample.
do with microwave damage of the brain.
Yes, because it's his specialty. It's the specialty of the doctor. So it's a theory he's having that if a brain is damaged that way, it can only be the result of damage of the blood cell. And the blood cell are damaged with some little hole, and the holes are the size of a micromillimeter. And if it is the size of micromillimeters, it means that the energy that has been used to make the holes in the blood cell, it must be in the range of the length of microwaves. It must be in the
Correct.
same
The same
length.
wavelength. Yeah.
So it is this theory, and I think is right. I think that when we are targeted, it's mainly the center of the brain that is targeted, and with an excess of targeting and an excess of microwaves, we have the result of a neural inflammation, and also a lack of oxygenation because the blood cells are damaged in the center of the brain.
This is absolutely remarkable. So those
Yeah.
pictures that you are showing are both from this particular doctor and from his studies. So
Yeah.
one is the brain of a normal person who's not being hit with microwaves, and then you have the brain of a person who's actually been exposed to a great deal of electromagnetic radiation that he's taken MRIs of and run tests on and created a graph to figure out how much oxygenation the cells are getting in the middle of the brain. Right?
Yeah.
And the second one is more closely attuned, obviously, as we can see, to the image of your own brain.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it really brings home the fact that what's happening with this electromagnetic radiation that's being directed via DEWs, directed energy weapons, and from satellites, from drones, from cell towers, as well as from microwave emitters, ground-based platforms that people are wielding in their backpacks or in cars and hitting targets with, is having enormous damage on the brain. And so the intention perhaps is to damage the brain, which is egregious, which is extreme, and which is something that our governments have to be held accountable for. Because perhaps doctors need to step in, perhaps physicians need to step in and see what is going on and see how human beings are being attacked in this way and how human brains are being degraded and destroyed in this fashion with these incredibly dangerous weapons.
Yeah.
Right? And so perhaps this is a first step. Perhaps what we are doing here, showing the world what's going on is a first step in waking up a larger mass of people, a larger mass of educated people to step forward and begin to take action about the horrendous nature of these electronic weapons that are being used. Well, I use the word electronic because it comes from electronic warfare, from that term, electronic warfare, that's being used in the United States of America. But they're really not electronic weapons. They're actually electromagnetic weapons, right? They use radio frequencies and microwaves to assault our brains. So, it's all of the stuff that you've been doing, Frederick, over here, talking to me and presenting your story and presenting the different facets of your experience, I think is hugely helpful. And I really thank you for coming forward. There are so many obvious discrepancies when we look at how people like the police, for instance, have treated you at the La Nuit Debout protests, for instance, where we know, you and I know at this point in time, many in the police, in fact, probably in all the police, in all of our police departments, is perfectly aware of energy weapons and in fact are using these weapons. You know, they're either permitting the military or the intelligence services to use these weapons on the populace, or they are also a part of the operation. They are using it themselves. So in the face of that knowledge, to then step forward and to profess an absolute ignorance of these weapons and to protest against your speaking out about these
Yeah.
weapons, that is deception carried to the nth degree, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
similarly, the deception of psychiatrists and the ignorance of psychiatrists. You know, you have both the deception and complicity of psychiatrists, as well as the ignorance of psychiatrists who refuse to go and do some research and figure out what on earth is going on. I know a great deal more about what is going on because we have done the research and we are aware that these weapons have been developed, these weapons are being tested, and currently they're also being used. They're being used as part of global surveillance, and they're also being used as part of neuroexperimentation that intelligence services are engaging in, that universities are engaging in, and that private companies working as defense contractors are engaging in. And all of this in kind of, you know, global scenarios, which is what's so astounding. I can sit here in the United States of America and do my research here, and it's exactly the same as what's going on in France, where you are, right?
Yeah.
So it's absolutely extraordinary. And, you know, we actually have gone on well beyond the time period that we had initially thought. We thought it would be 1 hour. It's 1 hour, 45 minutes at this point. So we should probably wrap it up. But I wanted to say this particular video is the culmination of 4 sessions that we have had together, where we have tried to trace your experience, starting from your present experience and then kind of going backward in time to 1998 when all of this first started for you, and then taking you through experiences in France, your travels in India, and then back to France again. And it appears that in 2014, which was how many years? 16 years after this torment and persecution started for you, the stalking, surveillance, and assault with neuroweapons, that was when you began to discover that there were others around the world and in France who were experiencing similar assaults, right? 16
Yeah.
years after it first started.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in other words, that story that we hear about in the false, deceptive, controlled media write-ups from the New York Times and the Daily Beast and Mother Jones and the Washington Post, where you have all of these agents working for the CIA stepping forward to say, oh, this is a group of people who are finding each other on the internet and having a mass delusion about neuroweapons and about electromagnetic weapons. This is the story. I mean, this is the sort of kindergartner story that you have supposed journalists working at the New York Times spewing out. And it's very clear that these guys are actually just agents of the Central Intelligence Agency putting out a big fat lie. In other words, disinfo, or attempting a major psyop on the rest of the populace. That one, these weapons do not exist, and two, these weapons are not being used. So your experience actually gives lie to that entire edifice of extreme deception coming out of mainstream media. And so this is why I think your story, your experience is so very important for everybody to hear. It took 16 years for you to figure out that this was happening to other people. And during
Yeah.
that 16 years, not only did you have a bunch of experiences that you tried to analyze on your own, you also had disclosure given to you by various people, right? At Hewlett Packard, your manager told you that the guys sitting next to you were from the French and American intelligence services, right? Something like that.
Yeah, he was not sure who they were, but they were renting the place and they were outsiders.
That they were outsiders. And you actually saw them working with a kind of a brain map.
Yeah.
And you talked to one of them, one of the women, right? About, you
Yeah.
kind of confronted her.
Yeah.
Right. And that story is detailed in full in part 2 of this series. So anybody can go back to part 2 and find out what exactly happened on the floor at Hewlett-Packard, and also watch that wonderful movie that your friends from Berlin, was it from Berlin or Paris, who made
Paris.
that movie? From Paris, your friends from Paris made, which is a marvelous expose of your experience, beautifully done, and actually takes us step by step through that particular experience at Hewlett-Packard, right?
Mm,
And then the
yeah.
other thing that was extraordinary is in Kashmir, India, where the guys who were sitting next to you in the room next to you and hitting you all night finally confessed the next morning when you kind of guilted them into it through that prayer that you had. And this is in part 3 of the
Yeah.
series.
He gave me his mobile number, but I lost it. I could
Right.
not contact him.
Did he? And he actually confessed.
Well, he confessed, yes. He said, we are sorry what we did to you, but if you need any help, you can contact me. And they have flew away.
Right. This is very interesting. So apparently this was a group of 4 Christian boys who were
Yeah. Girls and boys, yeah.
girls and boys. Okay. Young men and women who were
Yes.
using weapons on you, sitting in the room next
Yes.
to you. But finally awakening to a sense of conscience and guilt and, trying to give you help. Because if you look at it from the point of view of what India is all about, as you know, I'm Indian, I'm from India. India is a land of hospitality and warmth and generosity of spirit. Just as, by the way, all of our cultures are. And something like this, what's going on today with surveillance coming and ripping communities apart, ripping neighborhoods apart, setting people against each other, is so foreign to the true nature of human beings, right?
Yeah.
And so when I look at the story, when I hear the story of what happened to you in India, it appears to me that those young men and women suddenly awoke to a sense of their own cultural identity and a sense of their own natural selves, and began to feel some remorse and conscience and tried to help by giving you their mobile number and saying, come and, call us if you need help, etc. Which is
Yeah.
kind of the way most Indians treat foreigners in India, with warmth, with hospitality, with interest, with generosity of spirit, and so forth. So anyway, so those 2 incidences, Hewlett-Packard and the one in India, was absolutely remarkable in terms of establishing that this is an organized program. It's a vastly organized program. It's being run by intelligence agencies in collusion with intelligence agencies across borders in different countries. And people are being roped into this to really attack other people without any kind of meaning, provocation, or sense. These are actual weapons that are being used, and deadly weapons. And, all of your experiences that you've talked about today as well. So in a sense, it was after several years that you became an activist. You did not become an activist immediately.
No. I'm a late art activist.
Right, but you're a marvelous activist. You're a very strong activist. It appears like very few activists, put information on their cars, and very few, not all, have websites. And your website appears to be very comprehensive. So I think you're doing a marvelous job with the activism. So therefore, it's only in the last 3 years that you've been an activist. And this particular video traces that arc. Your life and experience in France after India, and then becoming an activist toward the end of that period, and kind of brings us to this moment in time where perhaps where we should close today is to kind of update us a little bit as to where you are today in your experience. So we know that you've been detained in France, and all of that is laid out in the very first video in the series. You were detained on a wrongful charge by the local police, and you were sent off to a psychiatric institution, and you were given this prescription where you are required to take a mega dose of a certain antipsychotic once a month, and so on. So what exactly is going on currently?
Well, when it was in August 2016, I was in my house, and the neighbor behind my house sold his house to a group of 2 or 3 person, and this 2 or 3 person came, and I have been attacked like never before. So I had to shift again to a new house, and since November 2016, I am in a small village, mountain village house, and I am a little far from the rest of the village, so I feel safer here, but still, since the month of March, when I went to Paris to make the examination with the doctor, I am under attack again in this house, and I have to shield myself with aluminum plate I have made myself in my bedroom. So I sleep with aluminum shielding. Otherwise, it's a little difficult. And now I still don't have my car back. My car is still confiscated by the prosecutor, and there is still an investigation going on me. And maybe the investigation has broadened from the fake car accident. Maybe the investigation has broadened to my website and to my videos. And so maybe they are inquiring what has happened a few months before, a few years before. And maybe if they are going to inquiry what I claim to be the truth, maybe it's a good thing, because if they go back to the beginning, to the HP, for example, if they go back that earlier time, and if they find out that what I am saying is the truth, then maybe this inquiry can lead to something interesting at the end. But I am not sure at all. Maybe this is just a fake inquiry. They are pretending to make an inquiry, but it's just for annoying me. And they keep my car. I cannot use it. I am in the middle of the mountains. So if I want to go somewhere, I have to walk 1 hour before reaching the closest supermarket by walk. And if I want to use a bus, I can use a bus only twice a day, and I have to book it 24 hours in advance. So it's very complicated for me. I am totally isolated in my home, like if I was a prisoner at the home. So my situation is not completely recovered.
No, it sounds rather dismal, to tell the truth. And this particular psychologist or psychiatrist that you're seeing currently at this hospital,
yeah,
how aware is she that neuroweapons are being used on people?
No, I think that the cover-up, the psyop is working perfectly on her, because when she wanted to see my video on her computer, and then she was seeing other videos from other people on YouTube. So she was starting to think, oh, this is the kind of collective delusional. So she was already starting to use the psyop operation to make the people believe it's a kind of game between a group of people, and this has nothing to do with the reality.
You know, that's so interesting. I have to say, every time I hear that word collective delusion, it makes me think I need to get a bunch of psychiatrists in a room and have a chat with them as to what a collective delusion really is. But quite apart from that, it does sound like the psychiatrist is sadly uninformed. And what I would suggest is perhaps that you send these 4 videos to her, you know, so she begins to see this conversation that you've had with me, who is somebody who is researching in this field and who has a lot of information that I could send to her if she's open enough to read it. And I could certainly send her a whole bunch of links, a whole bunch of documents that absolutely give light to this notion of mass delusion. But I think your own testimony gives light to that notion of mass delusion, and she needs to be aware of that. She needs to be aware that, you know, you are somebody who did not even get on the internet and find a single other TI until 14 years into your targeting.
I think that if she wanted really to inquiry about all these things, she would have need to keep me at the hospital 4 months more, because she was not talking with me enough time. So if I was meeting her maybe twice a week during half an hour each, it
Mhm.
was not enough for me to explain her all the details. So if
Mhm.
she was really interested, then she would have needed to keep me more to let
Mhm.
me explain her everything. But she was not interested, and she didn't had the time. So
Mhm.
finally, we were in a hurry to finish this case, and
Mhm.
she was trying to teach me how to behave in the proper way quickly, and because she didn't have the time to inquiry what I was telling.
Mhm. Well, if you don't mind, do send me her information, and I will send her the links to these videos, and I will send her other information that I have. I'd be happy to do that, and I'd be happy to write a letter for you to let her
Okay,
know what's going on, really. And
okay,
this is not an issue for psychiatry. This is an issue
okay.
for informed awareness.
Yeah, I hope she will not mind, and that she will not charge me of more offense if she receives a mail with some greater details that she has never been interested to get from me at the first place.
Right. Just direct her interest to me. Just use my name. It's not you,
Okay,
it's me, in other words.
okay,
So anyway, and Frederick, as I said earlier, I am going to continue to explore this subject with others, and I'm going to start talking to psychologists and psychiatrists about this. I'm going to try to get psychiatrists and neuroscientists together to start speaking to each other.
yeah,
And I'm
that's
going to
good.
try to get military personnel working with directed energy weapons as well to start speaking out, or to speak to each other to the extent that they can, because I know that a lot of this weaponry is classified. But,
Mm,
they cannot keep this hidden forever. And people like you and I who are coming forward to speak about it are really, at this point in time, breaking up this whole big construct of secrecy that is keeping this secret. Whereas people all over the world are suffering and being destroyed, as you showed with those wonderful, images, those brain graphs that you were showing.
mm,
People's brains are being destroyed all around the world. People's lives are being destroyed.
mm.
So it's very important to keep continuing these conversations. And I hope that at some point we can bring you back as well, and
Okay,
talk in a group forum perhaps with other activists. And we
okay,
can find out more and we can work more together. So I really
okay.
thank you for
Yeah.
everything. Is there anything else that you would like to say as we get ready to close this session?
No, except that I say hello to my friends in India that I miss a lot.
That's wonderful. Yes. I'm sure they miss you too. And I'm sure they would like you
Yeah,
to go back and visit.
yeah, sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Frederick, for coming forward, for spending time with me, and for relaying your story and for putting your story out to the world. And, let's both hope that these videos make a difference and achieve something or accomplish something in the way of informing the world as to what is really going on and inviting and inspiring people, especially educated people like physicians, like psychiatrists, like neuroscientists, like people in the
Yeah,
military, people who know what's going on, and people who are just beginning to know what's going on. I hope it inspires them to come forward and take action and act on the behalf of all humanity to stop this Holocaust.
yes.
Thank, thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
And
Thank you.
thank you,
Bye.
everyone. We'll see you very soon with some more stories. Thank you.